This episode is proudly supported by Anchor Food Professionals, makers of mainland cheese. Here's Andy Sy from the Notting Hill Hotel.
We've been using them for a few years now, using their Tassie and mozzarella cheese. We go through about 135 kilos a week at the moment. So a huge number. So we use it for our garlic bread, our pizzas, our parmas, our bechamel, our cheese sauce for our croquettes and arancini, throughout our lasagnas, anywhere we can really. It's such a good product. You know, having the freshest chips to your fresh chicken to a freshly crumbed schnitzel and topping up with a really high quality cheese is amazing.
For more information, go to anchorfoodprofessionals.com.
We ordered a bottle of wine and I literally couldn't eat anything because I am now that age and that person that has a big lunch. I've become my mother. I will just have toast for dinner. I've become that person. I was mortified.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. It's the summer series on Deep in the Weeds, and today we head to Tassie to catch up with friend of the show and someone we haven't spoken to for quite a while, actually, Bianca Welsh. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
It's awesome to get you back on the show. I know we've had you on a couple of times, but it's actually been a while. How are things going there in Tassie?
Good. We've had an amazing spring season because last year was really quiet. It was a really slow start to what we would call the busy season. So this year's been great. Winter was, it wasn't too bad. We survived. And now we're just all gearing up for a big December, Jan, Feb. And I mean, gosh, if you've heard, we've got the Foo Fighters coming to Launceston in January. There's it's big headlines. There's lots happening, so it's quite exciting.
Well, you guys have one of the best establishments in Tasmania and well worth heading to. But you're inspired by your trips when you're traveling and stuff. Do you have any sort of travel stories from abroad from when you've been traveling that have impacted you?
Yeah, I guess a recent one, my husband and our children went to Japan not long ago. It was summer and I don't think I can do that again. It was a bit too hot for me. And yeah, I was trying to think of what sort of impactful food experiences we've had of recent times. And there was this amazing ramen place. Of course, it was a ramen place. And we loved it so much that we went back another time. And just the reminder, I mean, there were so many dining experiences we had in Japan that were really memorable, but just
it's so good there.
Yeah, just the efficiency, the care, the language barrier, but they'll still, they get the kids bowl out. Our 2-year-old was very excited for noodles and they were just so considerate. It was one of those tiny ones as well in Tokyo Station. Super busy, massive lineup constantly. And they were just so accommodating and there's a lot of places where you go around the world, around the world that kind of frown at you for having little kids. They kind of roll their eyes, especially when it's a small venue. They want to pack it out with people that are going to eat and spend. And it was a really good reminder of how important it is just to see your whole customer base and that to be reminded the importance of acknowledging the little people in our lives and the dining experience that they can have, because for us to go back again, of all the places you could go to in Tokyo, we chose to go back there again because of how simple the service was, but how considerate the service was. So that was, and they were just the best dipping noodles. So good. I think about them often.
It's a really good point that you make, because little people in restaurants is always a challenge as a parent or as an operator. But as soon as you become a parent, you need venues that can accommodate that. And does it make you think about the things that you do at Stillwater in that sense to with families?
It does. We've always been very accommodating. I think most of us have always either had young people in our life or our parents ourselves. I mean, even when I was starting out in industry and I had no idea about what kids need or kids at all, but I just knew that you needed to look after the parents because they're still a person as well and they want to dine. And they're often, when you look after them well, I know for us, they're usually the ones that spend well. Like they need a drink. They are into food if they're coming to see us, and they'll eat really, really well. So it reminded me of the importance to emphasize that to our team. And they always are great. We do hand out colouring in for the kids and give them a menu, and there's a kids menu, and I guess just reconfirming that what we do for children is really important. I think Australian restaurants can sometimes be a little bit snobby to children, and I mean most of the time, I guess Price Point will usually weed out the kids that probably shouldn't be dining in your venue. Before we had our children, I had this idea that all these kids were, you could train your kid to be a diner. And I still remember there was this family, and I reckon he was 6 or 7, and it was back when we used to do degustation, and he sat and had, I think at the time we were doing 6 courses, and he sat with his parents in his perfect little shirt. He had everything they ate, and then he finished, no joke, with a decaf espresso. Not even making that up. And this was years ago. And I was like, wow, that is phenomenal. And I was like, oh, restaurateur parent. When we had our first child, I thought, okay, we're going to have a foodie on our hands. And no, our son is a beige eater. Like, to begin with, beige eater. I had to trick him to tell him a quail was a mini chicken once to get him to eat something off, the regular menu. And he was, he had a problem with textures when he was little. He was just chips or nugs. And I thought, oh, that's disappointing. But it reminded me that we only see the 5% of the families that have kids that are diners. And so there have been times where we've wanted to take our children to certain restaurants because we love dining, obvi. And we've not been able to because there's no kids menu, and they won't do a variation. So, they've missed out on our business. And yeah, I think that's disappointing.
Yeah, totally. It's a fascinating thing to introduce into the model of a restaurant and get it right. It's a tricky one. We've spoken previously, and you do love to get around Australia, and you've got a good knowledge of Australian restaurants. Is there any trips around Australia that you've had where, you've got some food stories for us?
Again, another recent one because I'll start again. A recent one we had because we don't get to dine out as much as we used to with young children. We did get a child-free couple of nights in Sydney. I'm a avid lover of Back to the Future, and Back to the Future, the musical, was coming to Australia. So I booked this trip like 10 months out, just thinking we'll figure it out when it comes around. We'll palm the kids off somewhere. And very thankfully, we've got some amazing friends and family that helped. And so James and I used to, when we were young, so I'm getting close to 40, James is in his 40s. When we were young, like in our 20s, our trips away were 2-3 nights away, and we cram in like 10 of the best restaurants. Some nights we would do 2 dinners. We'd do breakfast, lunch, dinner to try to see all the places we wanted to see because we are on an island. We wanted to see what all the big island places were doing. So this time we didn't cram the schedule too much, but we were staying at St. Peter. So I hadn't dined at St. Peter for since they'd been in the newer venue. So we had lunch there, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. I still think about Josh Nyland's the mackerel, the rip dip butterfish dish. Like, I was just blown. I could eat that every single day. It was so amazing. The oiliness of the fish, the bread, the butter, like, it was just so simple but so memorable. I think it's one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life. And it was but James ordered it, so I pretty much stole most of it from him. And then we had an amazing meal. like for them, for their Restaurant of the Year awards and all their accolades, like are so well deserved. Like I've got so much respect for what Josh does. And then of course, because we thought we were still young, we booked porcine for that night, and we'd had quite a late lunch because we got in to Sydney late. There's not a lot of great flight options from Launceston direct into Sydney. So we'd had a late lunch. We had dinner booked for 7:30. I'd had a little bit of a nap in between lunch and dinner. We got to dinner and I just said I looked at Jane, we ordered, and I said, I don't think I can eat anything. I am still so full from lunch. I am completely cooked. And I asked the waiter, I was like, do you have Coke? Like Coca-Cola? And he's like, oh, I've got a personal stash. I'll let you have some from my personal stash. You know, when you just need like a little bit of sugar and something cleansing, I thought that'll get me in the zone. And then the food came and they were so lovely. They shouted us an extra dish and we ordered a bottle of wine, and I literally couldn't eat anything because I am now that age and that person that has a big lunch. I've become my mother. I will just have toast for dinner. I've become that person. I was mortified that I am now that age. And so poor old James had to really throw his shoulder into the wheel and pretty much eat everything that we'd ordered. And then we obviously, because we'd been drinking for lunch and had a bottle of wine, we had an argument. And it was just a really nothing, like the venue was great. The food was amazing. What I did eat, the few bites that I did eat, but I thought, oh my God, they're probably looking at us going, what the hell is happening with that table? Because yeah, I wasn't really eating or arguing. It was welcome to dining out when you're a parent and you're in your 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel your pain. I'm a little bit older than you, and I totally get it. If you have a long lunch, you are toast for the rest of the day.
That's the first time it's ever happened to me. Like I am, one of my probably top 3 things that I can do is eat. Like I'm a really, really good eater, really good under the tooth, and surprisingly so. And I was so disappointed that I couldn't eat dinner.
How important are these sort of trips in Australia for you? You know, does it help you sort of in regards to what you do in Tassie, or does it sort of solidify what you guys are doing in Tassie? Like what sort of impact does it have on you, those food trips?
It is so inspiring to James and I, and we find we take away so much from it. It might not be exactly like inspiration to suggest to our chef of dishes that should go on the menu or certain produce, or but it can sometimes just be maybe an idea of how the menu's formatted, a waiter interaction. It can just be a reconfirmation of what we do is matching on the national level, because we can sometimes feel like we're just in this little backwater town and we don't know what we're doing. So to benchmark, I think, is a really, really important thing for anyone in industry. And so much so that trip for James and I, particularly after our lunch at St. Peter, we said, because we used to sort of pre-COVID, we used to take a small team of the chefs to Melbourne, for a little dining trip to get some inspiration every couple of years, taking turns of who would go, but always the leader of day and night sort of operations. And we would find that they'd come back with so much motivation and a bit of a kick in their step. And so we did a local trip just recently, and we did take the team to Agrarian to show them the benchmark for them to have won Restaurant of the Year last year in Gourmet Awards, and all their other accolades. Were like, this is the top of what Tassie has to offer, and it punches, on a national level as well. So we took, I think there was 15 or 16 of us, got a minibus, took a car, took them down to lunch and paid for the team, because we think that investment is really important to show how seriously we take what our team does, and just to have some fun and a bit of a reward for the team as well. And we did a tasting at Meadowbank on the way, just out in the middle of the vineyard, in amongst the vines, and it was really special.
That's amazing. That's incredible for your team to experience that and take that inspiration back. And as always, it's an inspiration to catch up with you. I can't believe it's been so long. We'll have to make it sooner. the next time. Loved having you on Deep in the Weeds today. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Huck.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.